Thanks for staying with us, and we're back talking with Representative Daniel J. Burke of the 23rd District, and we're finding out so many of the different improvements he's made for his community. And I've just got to ask you, this has been kind of haunting me as I'm listening to all these amazing contributions you've made. How does one go about getting these type of laws through the legislation when you think of how many of these lobbies are really, like some of the banking lobbies were against you getting the predatory lending bill through, and there seems like it would be difficult to pass all these bills. I'm wondering, how did you manage this?
Well, it's interesting, Judy, that you asked, because many of the people that I represent think that these ideas just happen. And I think in my now 19 years experience in the Illinois General Assembly, I'm kind of thinking I'm like the dinosaur these days. I've been around
a young dinosaur.
Well, thank you very much, but it's a process. And for those who would even entertain the idea of becoming part of this legislative society that we call the Illinois General Assembly, you have to understand that you need to, first of all, get your land legs. It would take a new legislator probably a good 2 years to even find their way to the men's room.
To the men's room.
It's a fact of life. I mean, it's like any new experience that you would find yourself in. And I can give you an example, and sometimes we think that we have these earth-changing ideas or a law that would improve this entire society's life. We very often discover that it's not that easy, and literally there are two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. It's up to one who can articulate, who can refine their idea to identify a society that would be most affected or would be a society that would be improved as a result of your idea. Just to give you an example, several years ago, I was the first legislator in Illinois to introduce the technology of AEDs, which is the automated external defibrillators. And for those who might be listening, it's probably seldom that anyone in our community today would not know something about that. Maybe they had a family member that was resuscitated by an external defibrillator, or people who go to the airports that see them mounted every 200 feet, or if they go to their local exercise facility or park district. Through the years, we've had the opportunity to place these devices in areas where there is physical exercise, where people might be prone to suffer cardiac arrest. But when I first came with the idea of promoting AEDs in our society, it was from an article in the Reader's Digest of all publications that said, this machine can save your life. And the article described where these devices were placed in Seattle, Washington, and some of the smaller communities around our country. And I thought to myself, how strange it is that here we are in the state of Illinois, and myself representing the city of Chicago, that we don't have these devices. And there are people that are collapsing, succumbing to cardiac arrest in our society, and there's no way to resuscitate them without this device. So I thought, great idea. Let's introduce the idea. And the way a bill starts is sometimes you have to just permit the technology to be used and then develop it into a more adaptable program, or in the case of AEDs, the first step was to say that the use of the device would be included in the Good Samaritan exemption. That would say if you came to the rescue of a victim of cardiac arrest with this device, they could not then hold you responsible for the effects of using that device. So, liability, eliminating that concern. Just as many years ago we had the same situation where if a physician came to the aid of a victim, they might be subject to liability. They might be sued for possibly doing the wrong thing. But in the case of an AED, that person is literally dead. There is no heartbeat, there is no life. Without electronic stimulus, that person is dead, and you can't hurt a dead man. So that issue had to be addressed. And just as is the case with any other idea that would come before the legislature, you don't get unanimous consent on its first introduction. Sometimes you have to develop a system of interacting with your colleagues, and maybe you have to have, and I know for a fact you have to have a rapport with others that sit in the legislature to persuade them that it's a good idea. If they have confidence in you, if they have had an experience with you as the lead sponsor of a piece of legislation, they're more inclined to lean toward your idea and hopefully support it.
Didn't you, how many people actually were saved by your initiative?
At last count, and here we are in 2009, I believe the figure, and this was just between our two airports in the city of Chicago, Midway, it's in my community, and O'Hare airports. At last count, if I'm not mistaken, there were 87 victims of cardiac arrest that were resuscitated by the use of an AED.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it doesn't surprise me that you would have started that, to introduce that bill with all of the work that you've done with the seniors in your community. No one speaks of that, and you've done so much. Tell our viewers a little bit of some of the initiatives you've done for seniors in your district.
Well, you know, seniors are a very special concern to me. In fact, I often reflect on what my mother said to me when I first came to this idea of running for public office and being elected to the General Assembly, our state legislature. She said, "Don't forget to take care of those seniors. They are the people that really need the help."
Oh, bless her.
Yeah, well, as we know, and as I get older, I'm beginning to really identify with the fact that indeed seniors very often are those that are the most vulnerable, that can be taken advantage of, and that at what we would like to think the most comfortable time of their life, when they are retired and just trying to maintain themselves in their homes, that they would have a society that would support their needs, their very basic needs. And we sometimes find that that community of seniors are literally those that are most taken advantage of. So through the years, in my experience in the legislature, I've tried to keep my mother's admonishment in mind and care for the seniors and try to introduce bills that would literally reflect on a concern for this community that should be revered and should be protected.
Well, the fact that you've been elected and re-elected again just goes to show how many of your constituents are so very, very pleased with all of your efforts. And we want to thank you so much for appearing here with us today. We're very proud to have gotten a chance to look at your impressive record. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. It's been a delight to talk with you this afternoon.
Thanks. See you again next week, folks. Bye-bye.